If you've ever walked into a negotiation knowing they had more money, more options, and more power, you know the scariest part is not them. It's the moment your own voice starts sounding like you're asking for permission. You say, "I'm flexible." You explain too much. You smile too fast. You accept the first number just to make the pressure stop. And that is how most people lose before the real negotiation even begins. Because being in the weaker position is dangerous. But acting weak is what destroys you. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to negotiate when the other side clearly has more leverage, without begging, bluffing, or pretending you're stronger than you are. You'll learn how to stop leaking panic, how to ask questions that reveal their pressure, how to use small leverage most people ignore, and, near the end, I'll give you a simple script you can use the next time you're in a weak spot. 1. The hidden trap. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. When you're in the weaker position, the negotiation often goes wrong before the negotiation starts. Because you walk in scared to lose the opportunity, and fear changes your behavior fast. You talk too much. You explain too much. You rush to prove your value. You accept too quickly. You hear one strong number, and your brain starts shrinking around it. Now imagine a job candidate with only one offer. The hiring manager says, "So, what salary were you hoping for?" And the candidate panics. They say a number too fast, too low. Then they start justifying it. "Well, I know I don't have a ton of experience yet. I just really love the company. I'm flexible." That sounds polite, but in negotiation language, it often sounds like this. "I'm afraid. I need this more than you do. You can push me." And once that energy enters the room, the other side doesn't even need to be aggressive. Gravity does the work for them. Personal insight. This is why weak negotiators don't just need better tactics. They need a different emotional posture. Not arrogance, not pretending. Just this. I may need this deal, but I will not let my urgency do the talking for me. And once you stop leaking pressure, you can finally see where the real pressure actually is. That's where power starts to come back. 2. Reframe the power. So if power isn't just money, what is it? This is where most people think too small. They think power means more cash, more options, bigger title, better lawyers. Sometimes, yes, but not always. Because in real negotiation, power also comes from information, calm, timing, the agenda, the quality of your questions, and how well you understand what the other side actually needs. In other words, the strongest person in the room is not always the one with the biggest batna. Sometimes it's the one who understands the board better. Let's say you're a freelancer pitching a large company. They're bigger. They have leverage. They can hire someone else. But they also have internal pressure you don't see yet. A deadline. A messy approval chain. A boss they need to impress. A launch date slipping. A risk they want off their desk. If you don't uncover that, you feel powerless. If you do uncover that, the conversation changes. Now you're not just the smaller party. You're the person who might solve a problem they urgently need solved. That's a power shift. And here's another shift. Don't just negotiate the number. Negotiate the process. Can we talk through priorities before we talk price? Can we clarify the timeline first? Can we look at options side by side? Even that changes power. Because when the stronger side expects you to react, and you calmly structure the conversation instead, you stop looking like prey. And once you realize power is partly about diagnosis, not dominance, the next step becomes obvious. Stop trying to be chosen. Start trying to understand. 3. Stop begging, start diagnosing. If you remember one line from this video, make it this. The weak side sounds like it needs permission. The smart side sounds like it's gathering intelligence. When you're weak, the instinct is to plead. "I really need this. I promise I'll work hard. Can you please do a little better?" But begging gives away information without getting any back. Diagnosis does the opposite. It slows the room down. It makes the other side reveal constraints. And it helps you stop guessing. So instead of leading with a defense, lead with a question. Hiring manager. We're pretty tight on compensation for this role. You got it. Can I ask what's driving that most right now? Budget limits, internal leveling, or flexibility on the total package? That question does 3 things immediately. It shows composure. It sounds collaborative, and it forces specificity. Now another example, if a client says your rate is too high. Client, honestly, your rate is above what we expected. You, totally fair. Help me understand what this needs to look like on your side to feel workable. That's better than dropping your price. Because now they have to tell you what workable means. Is it budget, speed, risk, approval, scope, cash flow? And here's the deeper psychological point. People trust their own conclusions more than your arguments. So when you ask the right question, you don't drag them. You let them walk themselves toward clarity. A few diagnostic questions that work well. What's the biggest concern on your side? What would make this easier to approve? Which part matters most, price, speed, or certainty? If this doesn't move forward, what becomes difficult for you? What would a low-risk version of this look like? That last one is especially strong. Because once you hear the real fear, you can build the offer around it. And that leads to the move most people completely underestimate. Small leverage. 4. Use small leverage. You do not need huge leverage to change a negotiation. Sometimes you just need useful leverage. Here's what smaller players often have that bigger players underestimate. Flexibility, speed, customization, attention to hidden needs, and the ability to reduce risk. That last one matters more than most people realize. Because the stronger side is often not asking, how do I help this weaker person? They're asking, how do I make sure this doesn't become my problem? So build around that. If they can't give you the full rate, can they do a shorter trial with a review point? If they can't raise base salary, can they shift start date, bonus structure, remote flexibility, training budget, title, or scope? If they don't trust a big commitment yet, can you offer phase 1 now, phase 2 after milestones? That's not surrender. That's smart design. Example, you're negotiating with a client who won't meet your full fee. Weak move. Okay, I can lower it. Stronger move. I may be able to structure this differently. If budget is the main constraint, we could reduce the initial scope, shorten the timeline, or do a first phase tied to one clear deliverable. Which of those is easiest to approve? Now you're giving options without collapsing your value. Or if you're negotiating a job offer, I understand base may be constrained. If that's fixed, would there be flexibility on signing bonus, title scope, review timing, or professional development budget? That's powerful because it turns one frozen issue into multiple movable issues. And when you do that, the negotiation stops being one cliff. Now it's a map. Another underrated move, use standards. Not I deserve more. Not come on, be fair. Try this instead. Could we anchor this to market range, scope, and level of responsibility? Or, what criteria are you using to define what's appropriate here? The second you shift from pressure to criteria, you make the conversation cleaner. More adult, less emotional, harder to dismiss. And now we get to the part worth waiting for. The framework. 5. The weak position script. Here's the script. Not a magic sentence. A structure. Because when you're weak, structure protects you from emotion. Use this framework. Acknowledge reality. Ask for clarity. Surface constraints. Offer low-risk options. Anchor to fairness. Close without desperation. Here's how that sounds. I understand I may not have the strongest position here, and I don't want to pretend otherwise. What I do want is to understand what would make this work on your side. If we can identify the real constraints, I may be able to propose an option that's easier to say yes to. If the issue is budget, timeline, or approval risk, there may be a way to structure this so it works for both of us. And if there's a fair standard you'd like to use to evaluate that, I'm open to it. That script works because it does something rare. It admits reality, without surrendering. It stays calm, without sounding passive. And it moves the conversation toward design, not dominance. Here's a shorter version for everyday use. I know I may not be negotiating from the strongest position, but I'd like to understand what would make this workable for both sides. And if they push hard, use this. I want to be respectful of your constraints, but I also don't want to rush into a version that's wrong for both of us. Can we slow this down and look at what matters most here? That line is gold, because weak negotiators usually speed up when pressured. This line does the opposite. It makes the room breathe again. And very often, the person who can slow the conversation down starts controlling more of it than anyone expected. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. You do not become powerful by pretending you do not need the deal. You become powerful by refusing to let your neediness run the conversation. Weak negotiators rush. Smart negotiators slow the room down. Weak negotiators explain. Smart negotiators ask. Weak negotiators collapse the deal into one number. Smart negotiators find the hidden problems, the movable pieces, and the low-risk path to yes. So the next time you are clearly not the stronger side, do not walk in trying to look impressive. Walk in trying to understand. Because the person who understands the pressure behind the position often has more leverage than they realize. And if you've ever accepted a deal too fast because you were scared it would disappear, comment leverage below. In the next video, I'll show you how to create leverage when it feels like you have absolutely none.